really decent boys that didn't have a chance.
If I can do this just about 24 hours a day, I know I can keep a job 24 hours a day if it's 2 jobs.
While Old Man River and the people of Hardin are staring at each other, down south of here, some of the toughest of the old birds are giving up and calling for help.
We have a mother and a son that are trapped in a home. We're en route to evacuate them at this time.
Chief Warrant Officer Terry Adams is a Coast Guard disaster unit commander.
They requested that we bring along medical personnel.
His men go into the most devastated areas to save people who've been stranded, kidnapped by the flood.
We're northbound to evacuate the Adams family.
The woman he's going after is 87 years old. Her name is Adams too, Millie Adams, and her son Eric.
So we're fighting at least a 10 to 12 knot current going up.
That means that this whole area is starting to flood a lot faster.
Yes, sir.
This body of water near West Alton, Missouri, used to be a neighborhood.
Our phone line's down a little like that. We just hit a fence. Either that or a Buick.
Here you want the area to over land?
As rescuers get closer, treacherous conditions demand a smaller boat. Finally, the crew finds the house.
Mrs. Adams, it's the U.S. Coast Guard.
Back in Hardin, Kim and Scott Camp's crisis appears to be getting even worse.
Their pump hasn't been running all day. You can see all the water back there that's built up, so we're trying to dig a ditch so it'll drain out and not get into the house.
They're now facing the likelihood of losing their home. That wall of sandbags the prisoners helped build is holding, but now water is coming up into the house through the sewer line.
Our sewer's coming up. It's in the house now.
Yeah, we can't let the house go.
The river's rose about 2 inches since this morning, and in the stool was up to there. Now it's bubbling over.
It's one thing after another. The more they try, the worse it gets.
We're flooding out from the inside. We went through all this trouble sandbagging since July 4th, and now we're saving it from the river on the outside, but we're flooding out on the inside.
The area is on its way down. It's got to be something with the town. It has nothing to do with, because he didn't run
They might be able to reroute.
He said they can't shut the sewer off or do anything to sewer now because the water level's too high. And it's in the hallway from the other bathroom. It's coming up underneath.
Back at the Coast Guard operation, there's a happier result to report.
Okay by yourself, or you want me to help you?
Millie Adams is a bit shaken, but she's okay.
I've been through a lot in my life, but nothing like this.
There's a booger, huh?
I've been through a lot.
Okay.
When you get to be 87 years old, you go through a lot.
Stay right here, ma'am, and I'm going to pull this boat up a little bit further.
How you doing, Mrs. Adams?
I guess I'm doing all right.
Holding on all right there?
Yep.
Her son Eric is fine too, and so is the rest of the family. But here in Hardin, there appears to be no happy ending.
I can't go back in there anymore.
Scott Camp has been here every night, sometimes all night, working to save his house. But he's not here tonight. Earlier today, he was hospitalized. He's dehydrated and physically exhausted. Kim spent most of her day at Scott's bedside. As for their house, well, it's still here, but barely. As they say, when it rains, it pours. Dan?
Bill, why did the Camps build their dream on such low land?
Because the Camps, like many of the people along the rivers here, are children of the river. Their parents lived here, their grandparents lived here. They saw the good life. Many of the communities along here are small communities, and they were raised here as children, and they think it's a good place for them to be. They love it. It is a dream come true for many of them.
Phil Jones, thanks. Ahead on 48 Hours. The worst of the great heat wave of '93 gripping the east and south may not be over as scores of people die and more precious American farmland is turned to dust. Let me show you something here. As part of the desperate defense of Des Moines, these people under the lights and into the night keep doing the backbreaking, hand-blistering work of sandbagging, symbolic of what's going on throughout the Midwest in the fight against rising water. At the same time, the East fights rising temperatures. A record-shattering heat wave has claimed dozens of victims. Over 100 people have reportedly died from heat-related causes. Countless others suffered heat stroke or required medical attention. As Aaron Moriarty tells us, for many Americans, it has been a living hell on earth.
WCBS Weather Center. Dangerous levels of heat and humidity today, hitting or topping 100 degrees once again.
101 in Central Park.
The heat index 107.
There are supposed to be 8 million stories in the naked city.
Hot, man.
But during our 48 hours, there is only one.
The heat is too much. The roof is hot. The building is hot.
I'll be staying in the house because I know if I go outside, I'll pass out.
It's terrible. I mean, there's no air. It's so hot outside.
Holy heat wave, the hottest in years. It was 103 in Washington, 100 in Philly, and Harrisburg.
New York area weatherman Lloyd Lindsay Young thought he had seen it all.
Weather has just gone nuts this year.
Until now.
The heat index at Newark Airport on Saturday was 120. 120 in the shade. That's probably 140 in the sun. And that's life-threatening if you're cooped up in a tenement building.
Heat exhaustion.
Paramedics Ralph Goyenechea and Tom Torres work for emergency medical services in the Bronx.
Don't make them so deep if it's going to hurt you, okay?
A neighborhood where heat like this can be a killer.
Do you take insulin or do you take pills? Everything affects a diabetic.
It's always the elderly and the young who get really blasted by the heat. And if they have any type of problem like diabetes or heart problems, then forget it. Cardiac. No le ponga así.
This was a fairly young lady with no cardiac history. Had to walk down the stairs in the building.
The elevator is not working, you know, he can't go.
By the time she got downstairs, she was dizzy, complaining of chest pain, all directly from the heat. So this affected her heart. So the heat just complicates everything.
It's like a huge brick wall. And every time a cold front comes out of the Midwest, it can't penetrate this wall. It's not just the heat and humidity, it's also the toxins and pollutants. We have so much cement and asphalt, it creates a heat island.
And on that island, it is 102 degrees in the shade.
All right, his body feels hot. Sponge his body down.
Susan Diamond has been taking emergency calls for the city since the heat wave began.
Okay, ma'am, do what I say.
And she's beginning to show the strain.
Ma'am, the call is in, ma'am.
How many calls have you had like that? I mean, can you even calculate?
I can't even count. It's like back to back to back. He's intoxicated and is threatening to kill himself. You feel like you're not doing enough for the caller because you know that there's a call waiting. So you know someone else is waiting to talk to you that needs an ambulance.
After 3 days of triple-digit temperatures, calls to emergency medical services reached an all-time high, 4,519 in one day. But if New York is the busiest city along the East Coast, Philadelphia is the deadliest. It is an all too familiar scene. Paramedics from Philadelphia's fire department find an unconscious man on the floor. His body temperature, 105 degrees.
Hold his forehead down for me. Yeah. The houses are usually 120 degrees when you get in them. Almost everybody is on the second or third floor, in the hottest sections of the house. I have a real faint carotid pulse. He's going to have no blood pressure with it, though. All right, let's just lift him.
He's still alive.
Want to switch up? Let me do the CPR.
Paramedics rush him to the hospital. The 62-year-old man does not make it.
We have a saying in public health that poverty is bad for your health.
Dr. Robert Ross is the city's health commissioner.
In many of the homes where elderly were discovered dead, the windows were tightly shut. Philadelphia is famous for its row homes. They are generally made of brick. They generally have a black tar roof. So most of the victims came from dwellings just like these, elderly citizens who lived in the top floor, virtual shut-ins from the surrounding community.
That same evening, another call.
Second floor.
Another man on the floor.
We haven't been up there yet.
Philadelphia paramedics Roman Baxera and Ray McCary head up the stairs.
All right, let me get a sheet.
But there is nothing they can do.
We have a 68-year-old male in here who was last seen 2 days ago, 48 hours ago. You have 100-degree weather out there, elderly, multiple medical problems, and they're not staying cool. They're dying out there.
And in Philadelphia, unlike New York, if the high temperatures contribute at all to a death, it is listed as heat-related. The numbers keep building. The current death toll, 97.
Have you been drinking today, sir? Always?
In New York,
What's the emergency?
the emergency calls keep coming.
Was he having difficulty breathing?
It's a high priority.
All right, we will be there.
Why don't you sit down?
Sit down for a minute.
Huh? I know. Why don't you sit down for a second? Come on.
4 days in a row.
All right, come on, sit down. Sit with me. We'll talk a minute, all right? What's your name, sir?
Schumann.
David Schumann is 84 years old.
I broke my shoes.
How you feel?
Dizziness.
Let me check your blood pressure, Dave. The elderly sometimes call just to have somebody come up and check their blood pressure and talk to them for a few minutes and spend a little time with you.
Yes.
Why don't you sit down, David? I'm Tom, that's Ralphie.
Of the 8 million stories in the city, there's really only one.
It's like an oven, you know?
Surviving the heat. And the summer's only half over.
Hot, yes, very.
These people struggling through the night in Des Moines, bravely staging a battle against time and the river, are symbolic of what's happening in the Midwest, because summer's halfway point has brought a midsummer nightmare. We now know it will be a long nightmare. Rivers all over the Mississippi River Basin and the Mississippi itself have become front lines in a war against nature. Richard Schlesinger takes you now to one Missouri town symbolic of the fight.
It is a place whose past and future are tied to the mighty Mississippi. St. Genevieve, Missouri, about an hour south of St. Louis, is a town at war.
Sergeant Tripp.
Del County Maintenance, do you have...
The river's doing one thing. The river is not sleeping.
Did they get those 2 hot spots all fixed up like down there?
Colonel Cal Broughton commands the National Guard troops here.
Do y'all know what the plan is, what we're going to do right here?
You going to be able to save St. Genevieve, do you think?
I think we stand as good a chance of saving it as not saving it. And that's kind of a funny way of saying...
Sounds like you're saying 50-50.
Yeah.
What this boils down to is a race against the river. St. Genevieve scrambled to build these levees higher when the Mississippi started rising. Trouble is, the river hasn't stopped rising, so this town can't stop fighting. These levees are the battle lines for St. Genevieve, and so far, the lines are holding.
Now, see that where it says 46?
On the tree?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 46 feet?
That's 46 feet. 46 is where we're geared for. That's what we're got to have a plan for.
Mm-hmm. What if it goes to 47?
Go back to work.
How many of these have you stacked so far, do you think?
About 1 million.
At least.
There's plenty more sandbags and plenty more manpower where they came from. Almost everyone in town is in this fight for a city that has battled nature throughout its history.
You know, St. Genevieve was the first settlement west of the Mississippi, they say. Survived the earthquake 1812 and the floods 1844 and the last big one, I guess, in 73, but they say this one's going to be worse.
You don't look like the normal levee worker.
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
I think we're ready to clear out.
For a handful, that means giving up and heading out.
Let's see, are we forgetting anything right now?
When you see those weeping willow trees over there,
Uh-huh.
now that is normally on a property across the creek.
I mean, this was a nice backyard at
Oh, it
one
was a
time.
beautiful backyard.
You're sad?
I see other people breaking down on TV, but I didn't think I would do it.
We're holding back about 17 foot of water right now.
Vernie Bowman directs the civilian effort to wall out the water.
It's going to raise slowly, 5 inches the next day and about 4 inches the next day, and it's going to raise until Sunday. The 19th, I think, is the crest date. And what we've got is a fight till then, around the clock. It's bad. This river is something.
They've built miles of levee here, dumped more than 150,000 tons of rock, and filled almost 500,000 sandbags. Inch by inch, hour after hour, day into night. They've been at it for almost a week now, and so far there is no end to the work or to the water. Do you hurt anywhere?
Blisters. You keep going. Little sweat. It's been fun. We're gonna do it, and then it's all gonna be worth it.
Do you really believe that, or do you have to tell yourself that later?
You gotta believe it. You got to believe it.
What you believe will happen.
That's what keeps you going.
We've got a barge and a crane sitting over on this side. You getting ready to go over and do some more? Yes, sir.
Missouri Governor Mel Carnahan.
When you fly over this, what's your impression? Well, this is just a very heroic effort by a lot of people. I mean, the homeowners and the volunteers that have come in and the guard have all gone together, and they're just fighting a war against this water.
We can't let this little lull in the rise get ahead of us. We got to beat this before that, because we got a big one coming, right?
We got a big one coming. We got about 2 feet yet coming.
So the people of St. Genevieve are keeping one eye on the river and one eye on each other. This is Ishmael Scherer's house.
There's a lot of water here.
There is a lot of water.
What's normally over here? Is this normally your backyard?
When the work overwhelmed him, friends, family, and neighbors just showed up to sandbag. He didn't even have to ask, and they could save his house.
Why do you think these people came over here and did this for you?
Because they were good people. Yeah, they were good people. And if I lost this tomorrow, it wouldn't bother me, the house wouldn't. But all the work they put in, that does bother me.
That break your heart.
That break my heart.
You've sort of adopted St. Genevieve as your...
That's easy to do.
Client. How? Why?
They're wonderful people. Everybody wants to get the job done. And they're going to protect their town. We're going to help them do it.
Well, tonight the people of St. Genevieve are still doing all they can to save this town. They believe the levees are now strong enough and high enough to handle the river as it is now. The big test will come this weekend when the river is supposed to get even higher, and there's been rain up north, so they don't know exactly how high this river is going to get this weekend. All eyes are now on the water. I ran into a lady earlier this evening who lives not far from the levees in this town, in one of the old homes that made St. Genevieve famous. She said this is a terrible time because we've done everything we can. Now we just have to hope that it was enough. Let's go back to Des Moines. Dan?
How long can those folks keep manning that levee?
Well, that's the question on everybody's mind. I mean, they have beaten the river so far. I mean, they've gotten their levees up before the river came up. What they're worried about now is how long the river will stay at its crest. I mean, they're talking about a 45-foot crest that could last a week, maybe 2 weeks. These levees were not built for that. They're not dams, they're levees. They're supposed to be temporary. And so if this river stays up for a week or for 2 weeks, there's going to have to be some serious construction around this town.
Richard Schlesinger, thanks. Another example of a story of horror, but also a story of hope and heroism. The sight of neighbor helping neighbor that we've seen so much was particularly striking to President Clinton, who came here to Des Moines today. The president flew over the devastation in a helicopter, then promised to double disaster aid to nearly $2.5 billion. But Iowa politicians say that's not nearly enough. Later, President Clinton told me that the most impressive thing he's seen is the way people have rallied to help each other.
It's a typical American response, you know, pulling together, but it's really quite wonderful here. We've got, look at them, thousands of them working, filling these sandbags, providing water to their friends and neighbors, trying to help people out. It's just, it's awesome. I've seen a lot of this kind of thing in my life as a governor, but I've never seen a city this big totally without water. It's frightening to a lot of people, and yet they pull together. Nobody's panicked, and they're working through it.
When we come back, more.
Where the river meets Rock Island, Illinois, the buses are packed and rolling all day.
I can certainly have a wheelchair for you here, yeah, in just a minute.
But this is no evacuation.
No, we will not be cruising due to the floods this afternoon.
It's an excursion.
But we still are gaming. Good luck today, folks. Enjoy your stay here at Casino Rock Island. Thank you.
Mississippi floods have paralyzed communities all around here. But aboard the Casino Rock Island, business is booming.
Casino Rock Island has basically 10,000 square foot of gaming space. It's an authentic Victorian paddle wheeler.
Good luck, everybody.
Unlimited action here in Illinois. There's no limits.
All bets set.
That's unlimited gambling action. The cruising action was canceled by bad weather.
I guess you could say we've had to be creative with ramping.
Gary Inks is the casino's vice president for sales.
The water would have kept a less aggressive entrepreneur out of business, presumably, right?
Well, we've had strategies set up with this for a flood potential here, and
what's the next stage?
The next stage is if this river goes up another 2 feet, we don't have a strategy.
For this $30 million a year business, the Mississippi flood has become a marketing challenge.
It's a wonderful opportunity to see record-breaking flood on the Mississippi, so bring your camera. Don't cancel your reservation. You know, there's only so much negative and adversity you can take, and then you got to let the tension and release the anxieties, and this is a great tool and opportunity to do that.
You're providing that opportunity.
We're giving them a chance to forget it, enjoy yourself.
Yes. Because we didn't know how bad it would be. But it's not that bad, really.
But directly across the Mississippi, in Iowa, it is that bad.
I don't gamble too much because I'm a loser. Poor thing.
Lorraine Bowman and her family live just upriver from Davenport.
My house looks nice ordinarily. It was up to the windowsills in '65.
They've been through this before, thought about moving after the flood in 1965.
You don't think it's going to happen again, you know.
And now Lorraine's thinking about it again.
I'd like to sell and move, I'll be honest.
No tears.
Might be. Might be. I don't know how I'm going to react to it yet. I don't know. It's a lot of work. I don't know. I know I'm ready to go.
Ready to cut her losses, convinced her family's luck on the river has just run out.
The fact is, in a sense, gambling's long been something of a way of life here for many people. People who've never been to a casino and never placed a bet. Just living this close to the Mississippi River amounts to what you'd have to call a gamble. And Davenport, Iowa knows the stakes. A city that took pride in its river view, unobstructed by any flood wall, now faces a repair bill estimated at $100 million.
We have 290 homes that have been evacuated.
Mayor Patrick Gibbs says it's time to reconsider building a levee here. Flood protection Davenport voters have rejected 3 times in the past 30 years.
What was the argument?
That at that time it would take away the view of the river, the flood wall that was proposed.
And there was money also.
In 1980, we were looking at the cost of the city would have been $3 million. I don't think we have any choice but to consider a flood wall and seriously look at the options that we have available. We have almost, or we'll be near $100 million in damage. We have several hundred employees that have been out of work for a week or more. And then we have the economic loss to the city. Just the riverboat being out of business is costing the city $20,000 a week.
He's talking about Davenport's floating casino called The President, idled upriver after its landing was flooded.
So your competition's out of commission.
For the time being, yes.
That's made the Rock Island Casino the only game in town.
Because of the foresight of the city fathers in building a protective flood wall environment has allowed us to continue business as usual.
actually better than usual. Business is up 15%.
We're very sensitive to the damage that the flood has done, and we're looking at the opportunities available where we can assist as a company.
You know, when I hear opportunity, I simply think of the money that your organization is making.
Well, America's a wonderful country, and it provides opportunities for everyone.
Still ahead on 48 Hours.
Lord, open up the windows of heaven. Lord, send us some rain.
Not a pretty sight at all.
High and dry.
Sometimes you ask yourself, why am I doing this?
In the South, farmers feel the heat.
It's the worst I've ever seen.
"48 Hours" will continue.
These Iowans are slogging on tonight in their struggle against the swollen Raccoon River, typical of what's happening all over the upper Midwest. But anyone hoping for good news didn't get much today. The National Weather Service predicted still more wet weather for the region in general, probably through mid-August. Rain would be a blessed relief for the American South, still being seared by blistering heat. The number one concern in Dixie is drought. South Carolina has seen less than 1/3 an inch of rain so far in July. Terrible news for a place that relies on its crops and forests to survive. Deborah Norville reports tonight on farmers confronting a scorched earth.
Heavenly Father, we pray again for rain this morning. Lord, open up the windows of heaven. Send us a rain.
This is obviously not Des Moines. Here in South Carolina, the flip side of the floods is one of the worst droughts in memory.
I hope we'll get some rainfall. Okay, y'all ready? They say that the next 90 days, we're not going to get it.
Perhaps no one's watched coverage of the Midwest floods with more emotion than farmers here in South Carolina. Sympathetic about the tragedy, but envious of all that water. Ordinarily, this field would be knee-high in soybeans, but there's been no significant rain here for nearly 2.5 months. All the rain that should have fallen over South Carolina is still stuck somewhere over the middle of the country.
My grandfather sharecropped, my father sharecropped.
Now Jerry Turbeville is wondering if he'll be the last farmer in his family.
This is beans we planted over 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago?
3 weeks.
How tall should they be?
These plants should be probably 3 to 4 inches, or maybe 5 inches high under normal growing conditions. And we've having the same problem with corn and tobacco. Okay, the only thing we want to get is this tobacco. We don't want to mess with this burn up tobacco. It's too far gone.
How important is tobacco to your business?
It is the crop for us. And it's the money crop. On some of these stalks right here, you need to pick another leaf, okay? This leaf round won't hold it, we can get back.
Each sunburned leaf means money up in smoke. So Jerry's racing against the drought, picking some tobacco before it's ready, before it dies.
Just do it as fast as you can. You're cropping one stalk and looking at the next stalk. You know what you're gonna do from one stalk to the other, okay?
In the 1986 drought, Turbeville lost a bundle. Since then, Jerry started a lawnmower business.
135.
And with his wife, Catherine, runs a convenience store.
Here. The only way that we can farm and make a living is to do another job. Our businesses are self-supportive, where a farm is not anymore.
If this year goes like this, can you
This
farming?
year seriously could pretty well close things down for me. I'm not.
Jerry owes a lot of money.
Hey, Byron, how's it going?
Jerry? Good to see you.
Good morning.
In fact, his bankers are visiting today.
They want to know how the crops look. Are the crops, good? Are we going to be able to get our money this fall? Or
Turbeville's not alone. Across the state, farmers are feeling the heat.
It's very severe. It's the worst I've ever seen. I'm 74 years of age.
If it weren't for the flooding 1,000 miles away, Fred Dobbins would be feeding his cattle grain from the Midwest. Instead, Dobbins is selling cattle to reduce his herd.
Yes, have to. Got nothing for them to eat.
There's nothing for him to eat.
No, ma'am. The past is completely gone.
Dobbins' sell-off could mean lower beef prices now, but a shortage of beef, and therefore higher prices, next year.
I'm not envious of their flooding, but I sure wish we could get some of the rain.
Ernie and Freddie Major's corn crop is another victim of the drought.
Looks like that gourmet stuff, doesn't it?
And it's not any better at Mac Dobbins' dairy farm.
They producing half what they would in normal weather.
Ordinarily, we don't have many wildfires in the summertime, but we're already 4 times ahead our total for July.
Forester Alan Alexander says it's so dry, the ground is literally burning.
Well, it's been going 3 weeks now, and it's going to take sustained heavy rainfall to put this fire out.
But even if the rain comes, it may come too late for Jerry Turbeville.
What do you think? It's about 50% of what you normally get.
His banker is deciding whether to continue Jerry's loans.
You'll be lucky if you get a third. We'll probably about a third of a crop.
Third of a crop here.
I'm kind of nervous to what his feelings are. Of course, he knows that, you know, we've done the best that we can do.
It's going to be a tough one, I know.
Have you got any suggestions?
Pray.
Jerry Turbeville's done plenty of that. But the forecast for tomorrow is more sun and heat. And it'll be months before the bank decides whether to loan the money he needs to keep his farm going.
And I suspect you are not the kind of man who would even begin to think of declaring bankruptcy and walking away from it.
Nope. No.
You got a debt, you pay it.
I go down hard. That's the way we do it. You got to understand the American farmer. He's a proud man.
See how easy it is?
Oh, God. I want to take a boat from St. Paul down to the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, Susanna, now don't you cry for me.
Feel like you're in sync with nature, you know, just kind of gliding along.
Yeah.
It's been almost 2 weeks since Louisianans Mark Robichaux and Robert Vizina set out on the vacation of a lifetime to travel the length of the Mississippi.
Oh, Man River.
We called the Army Corps of Engineers. They advised us. We said, when's the best time to take a trip like this? And they said, July, August. Best time. Leave the river, so the river will certainly be down by then. You don't have to worry about any flooding, anything like that.
But the fact is, so much rain has fallen, the locks downstream are closed, shutting down river traffic.
Technically, we would have had to have been in St. Louis by today.
Yeah, that's right. Today.
And stranding Mark and Robert in a small Wisconsin town.
This is day number 6 at Prairie du Chien.
Yeah.
Prairie du Chien of the dog.
The Prairie of the Dog. We've been in Prairie du Chien as long as we've been on the river, just about.
Yeah.
The earliest we can get out of here is Wednesday or Thursday. But by that time, we've run out of time.
And we're running out of money.
Well, you just have to have patience with it. It's a patient river, too. It comes up very slowly, and it goes down very slowly.
Larry Capinas is one of Mark and Robert's new neighbors.
I've lived all my life here. I farmed since 1963 here.
He finds himself in the same boat as many Wisconsinites, who together have lost an estimated $256 million in crop and property damage due to this summer's heavy rains and floods.
Now, this is the Mississippi, just to make sure we're clear here. This is not just rainwater.
No, this is the Mississippi. This is backwater of the Mississippi right now. It shouldn't be, but it is today, and for probably the next couple, 3 weeks. See this here, where the corn is starting to yellow here. This yellow here is lack of nitrogen, and if you see the roots are just right on top of the ground. They're just so they have no reason to go down for nitrogen. They're dying of water suffocation.
Do you feel bad about it? Are you bitter about it?
Oh, no.
How do you take this? I mean, people in the city wouldn't have a clue as to what's going through your mind when you're hit with something like this.
Oh, I've never been bitter to the river. It's been good to us. It's been bad to us, too. It's kind of like a wife, I guess, probably. It's good and bad. You're married to it, come whatever.
Kumbaya, my Lord, kumbaya. I think it's just the friends that we've made, you know. I mean,
Absolutely.
we've made some incredible friends on the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. You just cannot imagine how nice people have been.
Okay.
Look at Jan.
The Jan Man.
The Jan Meister.
Our favorite bartender.
Jan Meister waving to us. Jan Meister.
The Jan Man. Actually, we've had a choice of cars.
Yeah, we have. It's really strange.
Yeah.
This is the car that he loaned us.
Very
This is
fast
You can
car
see
here.
Egan Police.
Egan Police Department. You look really...
You guys are quite resourceful. I mean,
well, the people...
You get a used police car.
Here, emergency, 911. Hey, it has been a pleasure meeting you. I'm serious.
On this day, it's off to a dinner party thrown in their honor by some of their newfound friends.
What can I say? You guys are unbelievable.
Right over here in this corner is a Winneshiek bar. 7 days in Prairie du Chien.
Yeah.
Are you getting bored?
And the people have really helped us not to be bored. I mean, can you imagine if we had not made any friends here? I mean, we'd be sitting around in the boat doing nothing the whole time.
Another day is gone in the prairie of the dog.
The weather that has kept Robert and Mark in Prairie du Chien has had its effect on other river communities in the area as well.
The rising river isn't the only thing that the people of Glen Haven, Wisconsin have had to worry about this summer. Just last week, a wall of water rushed down this street, washing trees, cars, and people toward the surging Mississippi.
Originally, when it started, I was at the bar. I'd just been there about 10 minutes.
Then, Roger Hampton went on the ride of his life in his pickup truck.
Next thing I knew, I looked in front of me and everything's floating down the street at me. Truck smashed into me and I went floating with the rest of them then.
This is a Chevy?
It was a Chevy.
Yeah. See, I feel a little lucky to be here.
Oh, I feel darn lucky to be here.
If it weren't for bad luck.
We'd have no luck at all. Is the lock open?
13's not open. 14's not open. 15's not open. 17's underwater.
Oh.
18's underwater. Well, the whole lock house is underwater in lock number 18.
Excellent. Excellent.
17, I'm sorry.
We gotta go back some. Okay.
Just today, Mark and Robert realized that their vacation was a washout.
Au revoir, ma petite fille. Au revoir, ma petite fille.
But they still are clinging to their dream to travel the length of the Mississippi.
Prairie du Chien.
Prairie of the dog.
It's gonna go down in my history as being one of my favorite towns of all time.
Absolutely. I will visit this place again, I
yes,
guarantee
absolutely.
you. I will be back.
Well, where are we headed now?
If there's good to be found in this flood, it is found in the faces of the brave people who live up and down the rivers of the heartland. The faces of survivors, hardy Midwesterners who refuse to back down, give up, or give in. It is found in their enormous generosity, like the people on these sandbag lines tonight. Neighbors helping neighbors with open arms and open hearts. We've seen it repeatedly since we've been here. Friends and strangers sharing food, supplies, clothing, money, and that most precious commodity, hope. I'm Dan Rather, and that's 48 Hours. Coming up next, your late local news. A reminder, too, to join Connie Chung tomorrow night for Eye to Eye. Now, here's a look ahead to our next report.
I did not know when or where he would appear, what he was going to do.
The fan whose obsession turned to murder.
I wanted her to care about me because I cared a great deal about her.
Terrified.
the soap star forced to start a new life.
His obsession is with me. This man lives to kill me.
And the Midwest family hounded by a mystery woman.
What will it take to make her stop?
Stalker.
I got to give you this and I'm fired.
Next week.
New tonight, we'll show you how the flood of '93 is affecting you in ways you might not have thought about.
We're going to show you how the National Guard and Police Department